Kia ora. This is John Winters, Supermarket Sleuth, talking to you from Auckland in New Zealand. And for those of you who haven't seen or heard me before, Kia ora is the Maori word for hello. And by a strange coincidence, many years ago in the UK, it also used to be a diluted orange drink. So strange coincidence that. Now, what are we starting with today? Amazon to open its first fulfillment centre in Australia. Proving it's serious about Australia, Amazon's to open later in the year the first fulfillment centre in Brisbane to aid faster deliveries in the state. It will house more than 500,000 items from amazon.com.au, ranging from health, household and personal care products to electronics, books, gardening equipment and pantry staples. A high proportion will be products Queensland customers most commonly buy from Amazon, offering shoppers accessibility and quicker delivery for these items. Local retailers will be able to send their products to the Brisbane centre, where Amazon will pick, pack and ship orders to customers, providing customer service support and managing returns. The centre adds to other sites at Dandenong South in Melbourne, Moorebank in Sydney and Perth Airport Precinct. That will certainly make that will certainly have an impact, I should say, on Australian supermarkets among other retailers. So I wonder who will set up in New Zealand first, Aldi or Amazon? Still in Australia, early in June there was evidence that consumer confidence had bounced back to its pre-COVID pandemic levels after restrictions were eased and shops reopened their doors. Analysts highlighted that the recovery of all the historic loss suffered along the peak of the lockdown was a promising sign. Excuse me. The Westpac Consumer Sentiment Index rose 6.3% to 93.7 in June, taking the index back towards the 100 mark, which shows more optimism than pessimism amongst the Australian economy. Westpac Chief Economist Bill Evans said that after a 16.4% rebound in May, the index has recovered all of the 20% fall when the pandemic exploded in March and April. And our final report from Australia returns to Amazon. Now it's turning its attention to alcohol with the launch of a wine, beer and spirits store on its local website. Oh, that's really going to please Woolworths, being one of the largest retailers in the country, not only through supermarkets, but also in many bottle shops. Major alcohol brands include Penfolds, VB and Johnnie Walker, as well as smaller local businesses featuring in the store. The alcoholic drinks industry in Australia is worth nearly 47 billion Australian dollars. Matt Furlong, Amazon Australia country manager, said the alcohol section will allow customers to order their favourite drink brands while shopping the other millions of products available on the site. Amazon first launched in Australia in 2017. Its revenues in the country doubled to 562 million Australian dollars last year. Now, let's catch up with the independent supermarkets in the country. Australian wholesaler Metcash is still benefiting from increased spending in the grocery sector during the pandemic. Supplying thousands of independent supermarkets, including the IGA and Foodland, the company saw its total sales over the year increase to the year to the 30th of April increased 2.9% to 13.03 billion Australian dollars. This was driven by its main food division, where total sales rose 3.5% to 9.1 billion Australian dollars. In supermarket wholesaling, sales increased 3.8% to 7.5 billion Australian dollars after benefiting from increased demand in March and April due to panic buying. Before that, total sales in the first 10 months of the financial year had increased by 0.2%. Metcash has continued to benefit from the change in consumer behaviour, with supermarket sales, excluding tobacco, up 16.7%. Now we cross the Tasman Sea to New Zealand. Countdown suffered problems during the lockdown when trying to deal with online orders in the lower North Island in an area from Gisborne to Wellington. So it's planning to build a much larger distribution centre in Palmerston North to triple the number of parcels it will be able to handle. This will allow them to deal with 450,000 parcels a week. This of course should the need ever arise again to handle many more online orders. So they're building for the future, which I think is pretty wise, because we don't know with this COVID-19 whether when it goes it's gone for good or whether it's going to come back. Just a brief visit to New Zealand this week as we zap up to the UK. Hovis, the famous British brown bread brand, now owned by a private equity company, could be sold for up to £150 million as its owners want to get shot of it later this year. This is the way private equity companies operate. They buy an ailing brand, sort out its problems, and then sell it on for a handsome profit. Apparently the Gores Group has hired bankers to sell its controlling 51% stake, which it acquired 6 years ago. The remainder is in the hands of Premier Foods, and it's said it's expected to take the opportunity to offload its 49% stake. Oh, you'd think it would pick up the other half. It probably won't happen until the autumn, when market conditions are expected to have improved. The potential move follows a turnaround in Hovis's fortunes in recent years, with it now focused on its bakery operations, having sold 2 flour mills in 2018. Premier sold the stake to the Gores Group for just £30 million in 2014. The deal was motivated in part by Hovis's declining fortunes at the time and Premier's strained balance sheet. The Gores Group had pledged to invest millions in Hovis to improve its operational infrastructure and reinvigorate the brand. There's been stiff competition for the business in recent years, and consumers opted for bread-free or gluten-free options, but it's held on to its estimated 28% share of the branded and pre-packaged bread market. The last set of accounts published in Hovis Limited showed its revenue was up 2.8% to £338 million in the year to 31st of December. Bread volumes had fallen by 1.5% due to competition from supermarket-owned labels. It may be difficult for other major UK bread producers to grab it for competition reasons, but it may be of interest to other branded food groups and other private equity firms. I used to dislike brown bread when I was a child, and by the time I was an adult, other competing brands were on the market, so I never really got into Hovis, apart from Hovis biscuits I really like, but these would have been made by another company. Now, let's take a general look at UK brands. According to Kantar's 2020 brand footprint ranking, more global shopping baskets are being filled by big brand names, with 20 of the top 25 brands showing growth on how often they were chosen by consumers. Overall, though, local brands had a stronger 2019, than the global brands. Global brands saw an increase in consumer research points, CRPs, of 2% in 2019 compared to zero growth in 2018. But local brands fared better, growing by 3.1%. Global brands now account for 1 in 3 brand choices around the world, while local regional brands account for the rest of the brands placed in shopping baskets. Coca-Cola stays at the top, being the world's most chosen brand on the planet. Do you know it's picked from the shelves over 6 billion times during the year? Followed by Colgate in second place, chosen 4 billion times, and Maggi third, chosen 3 billion times. Now let's have a look at private label in Europe. While private label groceries were popular during the pandemic, a new report suggests this is a trend that continued from last year. Nielsen data compiled to PLMA's 2020 International Private Label Yearbook showed that private label gained market share last year in 14 of the 19 countries surveyed. Market share for retailer brands was greater than 30% in all but one of the countries monitored by Nielsen. In Europe's largest retail markets, private label share stayed over 40% in the UK and Germany, and now accounts for nearly 1 in every 3 products sold in France. In Italy, market share climbed by more than 2 points, its biggest gain ever. One of the biggest increases was in the Netherlands. The unusually large gain came as sales from Aldi with its extensive private label programme were counted by Nielsen for the first time in nearby Belgium. Market share for retailers' brands climbed to 44%. We end this week with Iceland, the group who began life as a frozen food only supermarket and then gradually grew its shelf-stable products. Iceland's founder and executive chairman Sir Malcolm Walker and chief executive Tarsem Dwali have taken full ownership after buying out the remaining stake of external investor Brait. Iceland Foods was launched by Sir Malcolm in November 1970 and has had various owners over the years. Brait undertook a management buyout of Iceland with the backing of Sir Malcolm, Lord Kirkham and the Landmark Group in 2012. In November last year, it revealed it planned to offload its stakes in several British companies, including Iceland, as part of attempts to reduce its heavy debts. Iceland's management has been interested in owning 100% of the business for some time, and diligent cash management has provided sufficient liquidity to enable that to happen. Following a difficult few years up against the discounters, Iceland has successfully overhauled its offering and returned to growth, with sales up 4.5% to £3.1 billion in the 12 months to the 29th of March 2019. Its new The Food Warehouse format has proved particularly successful and grown rapidly in recent years. Iceland's extensive frozen food offering has also been popular during the COVID-19 crisis, with latest Kantar data showing the chain's sales have increased by nearly 20% in recent weeks. Wow, that's a big jump. And finally, we move from supermarkets to suppliers. Unilever has finally become all English. You'll remember that there was a move to switch the Anglo-Dutch company's headquarters to Amsterdam from the UK. Well, that caused a revolt among shareholders and England won. It's to abandon its dual Anglo-Dutch corporate structure in favour of a single parent company based in the UK. The decision comes almost 2 years after major investors sank a previous attempt to move the consumer goods giant's headquarters to the Netherlands. The company said today it has said it would merge its Dutch entity into its UK arm, Unilever plc, later this year, pending approval by shareholders. And I don't think there'll be a problem there. How did it become Anglo-Dutch? It's a legacy of Unilever's formation from the merger of a Dutch margarine company and British soap maker Lever Brothers more than 90 years ago. The group believed the move to a single parent company will bring significant benefits. These include giving the business more flexibility to equity-based acquisitions or demergers. Like some other global companies, Unilever is looking at spinning off some of its underperforming parts, like its tea division. The change also led to a possible split of the group's foods and refreshment division from its faster-growing beauty and personal care and home care units. Unilever said the Dutch government had asked for a reassurance that any future spin-off of the food operation would result in a Dutch-based and listed company. Following the move to a single structure, Unilever stressed that its presence in both the Netherlands and the UK would stay unchanged. There'll be no changes in its operations, locations, activities or staffing levels in either market as a result of unification. The headquarters of Unilever's Foods and Refreshment division will continue to be in Rotterdam, whilst the home care and beauty and personal care divisions will continue to be based in the UK. Well, that's it for this week. See my Supermarket Sleuth channel on YouTube, my Supermarket Sleuth and checkout pages on Facebook, and listen to me live on Magic Talk Radio in New Zealand on a Saturday morning on the weekend live show at 10:45. To listen anywhere in the world, visit magic.co.nz and click on Talk at the top of the page. Don't forget to check the time differences in your part of the world. That's it for now. Bye for now and have a great week.